some passages from his two oldest friends. So, Dad was born in Milford, New Jersey. His two oldest friends are still thriving. Bill Fern is, they're almost 91, I believe, and Martin Fish. I asked them to write something for today, and they went beyond. So let me read a little bit, and then I'll tell you a little story. Bill said, Paul was deeply proud of being Jewish, a true inheritor of Jewish teaching and custom. Having played the trumpet back in high school gave him a significant advantage when it came time for him to blow the shofar. Of all Hazanim, who I have known who blew shofar, he was probably the best I ever heard. He took pride in that too. He was a true believer in all that Judaism taught, and so he was a bit surprised in recent years when I admitted that I was a sure believer for 2 hours each year. When, he asked. I said, during each Nilah service of Yom Kippur, I felt sure in those beliefs. The next morning, I once again had my doubts. They lasted until the next year. We had quite a discussion on what I believed in, a subject to which he returned in each conversation we had after that. So Bill is also the person who said that he believed in Jews and not Judaism per se. Meantime, he started a temple in New York, which is thriving. So I'm not sure. Paul loved his friends deeply. Some dated back to grade school and those early years of Hebrew school, and the friends he made among the congregations where he officiated. He missed friends who had preceded him and were here no longer. He would be deeply touched to know how much his surviving friends miss him. He was also proud of being a Kohen. During the High Holy Day, standing next to his father and brother, while all three gave the priestly blessing to the congregation, I am a Levite, Bill says. I remember how much we enjoyed the informal ceremony that preceded the Dukanen, where I poured water, Dukanen, where I poured water over Paul's hands 3 times, as my father did to his father, in the shul kitchen downstairs before we all went upstairs for the priestly blessing in front of the congregation. Paul and I were best friends all through our youth. We had known each other since we went to kindergarten together. That little ceremony of I as a Levi, washing his hands as Kohen, was one of the small, unspoken things we loved sharing all through our youth from bar mitzvah until we left home for college. Bill is also the person that explained Dad's, to me, which is actually on, I don't know if you know, but this is Dad's trusty cassette that I took home. And it had a bag of cassettes, which I have been going through slowly but surely, and they are loaded with gems. In here, I can play it, it would be sort of starting in the middle anywhere because it's also beautiful, is his 1972 ordination as a rabbi by heavies in the field who believed in him so truly, versus the story that Bill explains is that one particular man was very, should we say, academically austere, and he lobbied against my father finally being able to be ordained in the trajectory that he was traveling, whereas everyone else around him believed that he was ready. So this one man created a bee in his bonnet for the rest of his life that he felt he had to prove Rabbi. And what this 1972 recording explains from Jack Bemperod, who spearheaded his ordination, and Jack is on here, and Jack is heavy. Jack is a Jewish, in Rome.
Representative to the church, to the back.
Yeah, so he swings with the big hitter. He's the guy. So he was part of that show, but we were able to get him for that. But he's the one who says on here, explains that what Paul did, who he was, and you all feel, is what a rabbi is. It is not diplomas on the wall. It's what you give people that they take on and live with, and the sense of purpose that we all have. That's a rabbi. In spades, Dad was, in 1972, they were already saying, years and years of what you've given us already makes you a rabbi. And we now, ordain you, the Jewish star to the gospel. He was also, I discovered on this tape at 2 in the morning, this unbelievable cantorial voice. Luckily, the man introduced himself as Dad's friend, and he went on to. So his name is Robert Abelson. Robert Abelson is also a heavy. He was in the New York City Opera. So his voice, maybe even a little bit better than Dad's as far as conducting the spirit, about capturing that sense of soul that you have as a Jew. So that's on here. For those who want to hear, I can play. And then more and more people explaining with fierce pride why Dad deserved to be a rabbi. So for any of you who, like Larry, who have seen the struggle for Dad's feeling significantly honored as official rabbi, which is really a ridiculous need, he really was already ordained in 1972 by people who knew what it was to ordain. So that's done, check. The other reading comes from Martin Fish, lovely man, again, dear old friend. They used to go through the reservation in New Jersey and apparently started philosophizing as 14-year-olds, which young boys, I guess, didn't often share with each other, but these two did. And Marvin says this: I miss mostly in Dad the only person who made me feel so that I believed I knew that he empathically cared about me. This is much more than concerned or interested or seeking to help and meet one's own need to feel needed. He held me, maybe that's Dad. He helped me use my introspection to find myself rather than needing to tell me what he believed he saw and what he felt, believed, or might advise be done. All others met their needs either primarily or often selfishly. That is the difference between sympathy and empathy. Few can be, and almost most will never find, such a true friend. I confess my failure to have been that to Dad, such as he was to me, such a true friend that I am able to speak of his own philosophy. He reached out to give much more than he sought, or was willing to receive. And that's quite beautiful, and I think that's quite true, that Dad, Paul, really, this is your friend, Paul, may have also been motivated by the difficulty to receive, truly receive, was happier to give. It's not a fault, but it is an interesting place to go when you know him the way I do and want to understand him as a person and not just a leader and a spiritualist, but where is the completion for him, what's missing for him. But he would say nothing missing, nothing broken. So that's what we are, today. I want to, before we do the last choir. Oh yeah, no, and we also have, so we're going to do, we're going to share this around. Definitely share this around, and then the choir. So those of you who want to keep talking, please stick your hand up. We're going to come over here to Kenny Sigman.
I first would like to thank Ricky for doing this. This is a gift that she is giving us 4 or 5. because what we're hearing about, and it was so much fun just to gather in. I had some things I wanted to say, but some of these things you've already said, so I just kind of want to summarize. What we heard about was Paul Silbersher, the Cantor, Paul Silbersher, the Rabbi, and although the word wasn't mentioned, we heard about Paul Silbersher, the social worker, because that's where he started. But, you know, it's the things that you all have said, that he helped all of us, or all of the people he ever worked with, build up their self-esteem, made them feel better about themselves. What you heard, what he taught, was empathy. That he was so good at being able to give. And the reason was because he experienced disappointment. He experienced hurt. And sometimes when you do, you're better able to show that empathy for others. My relationship with Paul goes back 40 years. And one of the things that Ricky said at the very beginning, it's about truth. And when you sit in this room and you hear all the experiences and the comments, you get closer to the truth of the man. So I remember, I started going to the temple on Saturdays. I was going through a rough time, so I thought, my daughter's mom and I divorced. So I wanted to show my kids that, I didn't divorce Judaism and that I wanted to go there. So there were several of us that would meet on Saturday. We didn't go to regular services. We went because Paul had a little small group of people that we discussed the Torah. We talked about each other. And we really enjoyed just the relationship. It wasn't really about, because I wasn't that observant. I didn't speak Hebrew. But he kept us coming back. Why? Because when we left, we felt better about ourselves. And we wanted to come back. But he always did this. He wanted to make sure that we had something to eat after that whole gathering. Always. This was so important. It was a good meal. He made sure that somebody at the temple was making us food. So that's when I first began to get a sense of the man. And in that group, we got close. And so we got to be friends. And after he said, "Ken, come on back to the office." And I think he was going through a tough time himself. I look back, and he was courting his wife. And he was so proud. They were playing tennis together. But then things went south. He never really complained, but we were back in his office, and he would share with me what he was feeling. But there's one other characteristic. He never, ever disparaged another human being. He could be hurt. But he never actually, even if he didn't like the person, he never trashed a human life. He never said, "I don't like this person." And that was a teaching moment. You don't talk about the person. You talk about your feelings. You talk about how you're hurt and the situation, but not the person. So things moved forward, and we developed this friendship, and we'd go to lunch every so often. And then, I didn't see him for a while, and then he was at my daughter's bat mitzvah. And I overheard him say, "Tell your dad to get with me. Don't let him forget." So we reconvened. And then, I felt bad because there was a period of time when I didn't see him. And then I said, I've got to go see him. Well, he was already in rehab. He was kind of on the downward side. So I went over to see him. Never did he feel sorry for himself. But I just felt, I wanted to be near him. So then he went home, and he had to have care. So I went over to visit with him a couple times on a Sunday. And he said, Ken, you know what? I'd like to teach you Hebrew. And maybe I could be at your bat mitzvah. So he said, really, I want to do that. Well, he wanted to give me something. But it was his way of asking that he wanted somebody to come and see him. But he didn't want to say that. He didn't have a need. He didn't need that. But he said that he wanted to give me something. So he said, if you'll come every Sunday. So I said, I'll be back. I'll think about it. And then I started to think about this. And I said, you know why? I'm going to do this. I'm going to go every Sunday. Not necessarily because it was doing him a favor, because I felt better every time I walked away. And for 3 months, every Sunday, for a couple of hours, we did some Hebrew. He'd say, well, Ken, don't get discouraged. You're really in the 3rd grade level, but don't get discouraged. Not yet. And we did that. We did that until, the last couple of weeks when I met you. But it was a gift he gave me. But yet, it was something he asked in return. And what I learned from him just about himself, he shared with me things that, never complaining, but he was vulnerable, and he showed me that, we're not all perfect. No one in this room is perfect. We all have issues. We all have things we do well. We have faults. And that's for everybody. But it was a joy to be able to sit in this room and hear from all of you, because this is something that Ricky did. And yeah, she felt good about it, but she did something for us. That we had a chance to tell him he really mattered. When we had COVID, we didn't get a chance to do that. So thank you very much for
The thing, for those of you who hung in, I think the thing that Kenny just did so beautifully was that, and I love this about my father, he was exceptional at hanging out. So my mother was a doer, she couldn't stop for a second. And to be with somebody who is busy in his head, has a lot to say, but who can hang out with you, who can just sit, and you feel that being together is enough, that's so precious and rare now. And that's what you're doing right now, that we're giving each other right now, and that's an honor to Dad for what he gave.
Heal the sick, help the weak, care for the poor, free the captive, be true to